I think we're going to go and get started. Thanks for attending tonight. I think we have about 130 folks on the call. And again, really appreciate you being on and taking the time to hear about middle school and what the plans are for the fall. We do have Greg Schwab, who will be leading this as well. He's our assistant superintendent in secondary, as well as middle school administrators, to be able to guide you through some high level thinking and answer questions also for you tonight. Also, I'm going to say this in Spanish. Si necesitan escuchar en español, hay un botón que nomás que alguien clic que está abajo de interpretación. Y la señora Patty está aquí también para escuchar y va a ser su persona para esta noche. Again, I want to thank you again. This has been a really tough few months for all of us. And again, some of the toughest in my 31 years in education. And we know that the spring was really impactful for folks. And we have worked hard to make the fall a much better experience through organization and making sure that we have the right supports as best we can as a school system. So again, I want to thank you for being here and really want to thank our panelists. And I'm going to turn it over to Greg Schwab, our assistant superintendent, who will guide you for the rest of the evening. So, and I will be in and out of this. I'm bouncing between two forums tonight, but I will be back to hear some of the comments being made. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, Dr. Balderas. I want to welcome everybody tonight to the forum. And before we get started, I'd like to do a quick introduction of our panelists who are with us tonight. So I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. So I'll start with Joe. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Joe Webster, principal at Meadowdale Middle School.
Andrea.
Hello, good evening. Andrea Collins, principal at College Place Middle School. Welcome.
Brian.
Hi, good evening. Brian Stewart from Alderwood Middle School.
And Scott.
Hello, everyone. I'm Scott Morrison. I'm the principal at Briar Terrace Middle School.
All right. So again, thank you all for being here tonight. And the purpose of tonight's forum is really to give you a little bit of information about what we think middle school will look like in this remote learning environment. And then give you a chance to ask questions that our panelists will hopefully be able to help us answer tonight. So with that, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. If I can see it, there we go. All right, and I want to begin tonight's meeting first with a land acknowledgement. So could we advance the slide to the land acknowledgement slide? Thank you. So we respectfully acknowledge that the gathering we are having this evening is held on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish tribes. The Edmonds School District wants to express our gratitude and appreciation to the Indigenous people on whose territory we reside. So want to start out tonight, if we could advance to the next slide, please, with some information about some updates on food and nutrition. Our food and nutrition department has been working really hard. They worked very hard during the closure last spring and have worked hard all summer long to continue providing meals to our students and families. And I wanted to share some updates with all of you about the plans for the coming school year. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Go back one more. Thank you. The first thing we wanted to let you know about is that their pandemic EBT funds are available for any families who qualify for free reduced meals from March through June, and this is up to $400 per student. And if you want to apply, there's a couple different ways, and there are links in this PowerPoint which will be made available after the presentation tonight for you to access those EBT funds to support your students. Next slide, please. We also wanted to share some information with all of you about free reduced meal applications. They are available at your school offices and online at each meal site. And we really encourage all families to please apply. The links are there. And you can turn in your free and reduced lunch applications here at the district office or at your school office or any of the meal sites that we'll be having across the district. Okay, and the next thing we wanted to share is that, go back one more slide, please. Thank you. Starting September 9th, we'll be offering school meal kits that will include 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches, and fall meal service will be available to enrolled students from preschool through grade 12, and will be at their eligibility price. So if you're free or reduced price or full price for those meals. And next slide. And we also want to let you know that September 9th, the school meal service resumes with a new schedule, and that full schedule is available on the district website. And there's some information here about how you collect your school meals at the school sites that are handing out meals. You'll need to bring your ID and your full name. You can also pre-register, and a link is there for you to pre-register. And you can also prepay online and complete applications for meal benefits when you pick up. Okay, so now we want to talk a little bit about the schedules that are currently in a draft form right now. And I'm going to ask a couple of our principals to speak to each of the schedules and how we want to talk about these tonight, because we really are still in the process of negotiating with our teachers about these schedules. So we really can only talk about them as drafts right now, but we wanted to give you an idea of what we think the school day will look like at schools for schools that operate on a 6-period day, and then for Meadowdale Middle School that currently operates on a 3-period block. So I'm going to ask Andrea Collins if she could speak to the middle school schedule and what that day would look like at College Place Middle School or any of the other schools that are 6-period day.
Great. Hello, this is Andrea Collins, and wanted to give you a snapshot of what a draft 6-period schedule could look like at a middle school. And for us, the first period class would start at 9 o'clock in the morning, followed by second period, a 15-minute advisory, and the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth period with a lunch break, and then ending it with office hours in the afternoon. So again, this is an opportunity for students to engage with their teachers on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday for all 6 periods, each of those days, with Wednesday being a more independent learning time for teachers to engage with their students and have small individualized supports. Right now, we are again in a draft process for having this conversation. So just be mindful of knowing that some things can change, but also knowing this is what a 6-period day could look like for a snapshot at College Place Middle School.
Would you like me to talk about the block schedule, Greg? Greg, you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, could you speak to the block schedule at Meadowdale Middle School? And if we could advance to the next slide.
Yeah, so we have for several years operated on a block schedule, which is 3 classes per day plus a homeroom, so on alternating days. We're going to continue to do that in remote learning. So on Mondays and Thursdays, students will have first period, third period, and fifth period. And on Tuesdays and Fridays, they'll have second period, fourth period, and sixth period. They'll have a 10-minute break in between those periods. We just feel like that's a model that fits what we've been doing better than trying to do all classes every day. Our Wednesdays will be the same as the other middle schools. It'll be an independent learning day and an opportunity for our students to touch base with individuals or small groups of students. Yeah, that's the block.
Great, thank you, Joe. If we go to the next slide, please. So one of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about is attendance, because as we know, last spring when we experienced our closure in March, there was a bit of a question mark about how students engaged and what the expectations were around attendance. What we know is that this fall, when school starts, there is going to be a very clear expectation from the state that students will attend school in a remote setting and that schools will take attendance daily. So one of the things that we want to really strongly encourage is that students should expect to attend and access the live, what we call synchronous Zoom sessions that are provided by their teachers on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and participate in any on-demand or asynchronous activities on Wednesdays. These are the ways that students are going to be able to demonstrate attendance in the remote setting. We also know, however, that we need to provide some flexibility for students and families if they're not able to attend live Zoom sessions with their teachers on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So we also have developed some other ways that students can demonstrate attendance. And those are things like checking in with your teacher during office hours in the afternoons on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays, emailing your teachers or text using Remind, which is an app that will be launching this fall as a communication tool for our teachers and for our students and families, submitting work that the teachers assigned that particular day, and then finally logging into your school Canvas account is another way that students can demonstrate attendance if they were not able to attend the live Zoom sessions that are offered in the mornings. So again, we really strongly encourage the attendance, and it's an expectation that students will attend, but we also know that it's important to provide some amount of flexibility for our students and families, knowing that family demands, ability to access online learning in the mornings might be challenging for some families. So there are other ways that students can also demonstrate attendance. If we could go to the next slide, please. So Scott Morrison is going to speak a little bit about athletics and extracurricular activities.
Hello, this is Scott Morrison, and I'm going to talk a little bit about athletics. So the WIAA is the state athletic organization that kind of guides and drives our athletics for our state, and they have left it up to the local areas and the area that the leagues that we are a part of include Shoreline, Edmonds, Mukilteo, and Everett. And we've suspended all middle school sports, and it's not possible to have the full seasons because of transportation. So we are not going to have athletics. But when we do, if we do return to a hybrid model, we are working to develop intramural programs for each school so that we can have activities, athletic activities for students to participate in if and when we come back to a hybrid model. So we want to have some sort of athletics for students. It will not look like our normal athletics. And we're working on a plan for what we're going to do as soon as we come back with a hybrid model, and we will be communicating those plans as soon as we get them, and as soon as we know whether or not we're going to come back with a hybrid. So now clubs, we are not exactly sure how we're going to make that work, but we know that we, all of us, and I think I can speak for all of the middle schools when I say that we're going to work hard to create some kind of forum for students to participate in clubs, get together, because we know that getting together and sharing these social activities is such a huge part of students' development. And so we're going to be working hard to make that work for our students. Clubs might not look, obviously, they're not going to look the same as they used to, but we're going to all work hard to create a situation where we can have kids coming together around some common interests.
Thanks, Scott. And so Principal Brian Stewart is going to talk a little bit about some of the plans that we have in place to support our incoming 7th graders. We know that transition to middle school is a very difficult time in a year for our 7th graders. And we want to make sure that our 7th graders are really well supported as they make the transition to middle school. And we also want to make sure as well that we're supporting our students who are new to the district as well. So Brian, can you speak a little bit to some of the plans that we have in place for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Greg. Good evening, everybody. So as Greg was saying, we're definitely working on making sure that your questions are answered for students and for families. And so, for instance, on my website at Alderwood Middle School, we have a frequently asked questions document to be able to answer some of your questions right now, because there still are some unknowns. But what we are all planning as middle schools are either virtual orientations. And so that can either look like videos for students, families to watch on their own time, or also live gatherings as well. And so schools are working on getting that information out to you so that you're able to plan around that and know where to access that information. And then also we've also either are in the middle or have already done our Chromebook swaps for 7th grade. And then in the future, depending on the school, we will have Chromebook swaps for 8th grade. And so the 7th grade Chromebook swap was necessary so that we could have enough inventory for our elementary school students. And so we did that early. And then we'll get to 8th grade at some point in September. We also want to make sure that we're maximizing the time that when you are here in the building or at the building for a Chromebook swap. We're also trying to make sure that the materials, any materials that you'll need for your classes, that we're going to have those ready as well. So we're really trying to time things out right so that there's some organization going on and you know what to expect. But between now and the 9th, we'll definitely make sure that we'll relay information as we receive it, and also making sure that we're available for questioning or any questions that you have as we go forward.
Thank you, Brian. While it's not a slide, I did want to speak really quickly to the hybrid model, that while we are not opening the school year in a hybrid model, we are continuing to do the work to divide students into cohorts so that when we do open in a hybrid model, we'll be ready to begin the school. We're ready to begin school in that hybrid model without having much disruption to school year. So there's work being done right now behind the scenes at each of our schools to make sure that students are in cohorts and that they're in classes, so that when we do return to some in-person learning, we'll be able to seamlessly transition into a hybrid model. So I wanted to share a little bit about that as well. Okay, so we are at the point in our presentation where we want to answer some questions. And so I see that people are putting questions into the Q&A. And so I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to ask just principals to, if they feel like they want to answer this question, they can. And so I'm going to put the first question is it possible for schools that would usually run a 6-period day to opt for a block schedule for online learning? Do one of our 6th-period principals want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can at AMS. So we're typically a 6-period day here, but there are drafts right now, and we're just trying to figure out what the best model is going forward. And so on our frequently asked questions document, there's also a survey at the bottom for parents and students to take, because we wanted to kind of understand where students and parents were thinking about the two drafts. And it's sounding like a lot of parents prefer the block scheduling, whereas the reverse, the students are preferring seeing their classes, their teachers every single day. And I think staff would say too that we really want to explore the idea of a block schedule so that we can have those 15-minute periods, and so that perhaps more content can be covered during that time. So there's definitely strengths, pros and cons to each, and so we're definitely wanting to solicit information from our families and our students to make sure that we have the right schedule for you.
All right. Question about, and this again, we have to talk about this a little bit hypothetically. But for the days when we have office hours in the afternoons and there's opportunities for small group, Will this be guided or structured, or will it be completely free form? Joe, do you want to speak to that? I think you had some work. You did some work on that last spring.
Yeah, so our staff is still trying to finalize plans, but we do anticipate having a structure to that time where certain classes at certain grade levels will meet during the first office hour, and certain classes and certain grade levels would meet during the second office hour, so that if teachers would like to meet with individual students or small groups or vice versa, that we're not competing for the same kids or for the time with the same teachers. So that period of time is going to be, I think, crucial to helping students who maybe have missed a Zoom class or need a little bit more one-on-one help, just like what we offer during normal school, after school with study club. But we also will be probably offering some math, some math classes, which would be for students who need extra help in math during that part of the day, as well as like our jazz band and jazz choir classes that usually are done during homeroom. Homeroom or advisory won't be long enough to do that, so we'll probably be doing that during the office hour part of the day. So we plan to make really good use of that time.
Question about, and this is, I'll take this one, but the question is, can meal kits be delivered to a family that cannot get to the meal sites? And I think what I'll do is I want to mark that question down, and I want to have our food service folks respond to that question. So please know that we'll get an answer on that specific question. Oh, this is a great question. Oftentimes we think people know what we mean when we say advisory. Does somebody want to talk about what advisory is? Andrea, you want to speak to what advisory might be?
Absolutely. Advisory has traditionally lived at College Place Middle School, what is known as Cougar Achievement Time. It's basically an intervention time within the school day that our students are arranged by a teacher that they have in one of their six periods of their student day. And advisory is an opportunity to sort of go over the guidelines and procedures and policies of a school, expectations for each student and expectations of families, but also incorporating what's known as social emotional learning. So an opportunity to get to know our students in a non-academic way, but in more of a friendly environment, to say that we can start to learn more about each other and understand who our students are and what their likes and dislikes are, and incorporate that in a brief 15-minute interaction in a smaller environment. At College Place Middle School, our Cougar Achievement Time, which is also named advisory, is a smaller size group of individuals, so it becomes kind of like a close-knit group after the school year continues.
Thank you. So this is a question I think is probably on a lot of parents' minds, and it's about the amount of work that we're asking some 13-year-old students to do in middle school. You know, logging into 6 Zoom classes every 25 minutes in the morning. Question really is, how are the 7th graders, how are we going to support 7th graders with learning to log into Zoom, a new learning management platform at home, and understanding that in some cases we're going to have minimal parental support. Anybody feel like
Sure.
fielding that question? Go ahead, Scott.
I'll try. So we're going to do that with a lot of grace, and we understand that this is going to be challenging, and and the expectations now are different than they were in the spring. We understand that, so we're hoping that because our expectations are really that students are participating in Zoom meetings, that teachers are doing synchronous instruction and activities, that things are going to look different. But we do know that the participation from middle school students is going to be a challenge, and we're going to work with that. We understand. We're going to be helping our teachers understand that things are going to be different. We're going to support them to help them support your children. We have all kinds of support staff as well, who are going to be helping students if it comes up, if a teacher is telling us, hey, you know what, this student, I haven't seen this student in a couple of days, or it seems like they need some support. We've got folks who are going to help out with that, who are going to check in with that student whenever possible if the teacher's not able to. But we understand basically we understand this is going to be challenging, and we're going to approach that with grace. And we're going to advise our teachers to approach their students with grace, and we're going to be here to support them. And we're going to be doing a lot of social emotional learning around this, we understand that building connections is going to be the key part to students engaging. And so we're going to have to do a lot of work around that to be sure that kids are ready to participate and wanting to be participating. But even with all of that, it's going to be a challenge, but we're going to be working hard to help them.
I was just reminded that we have a lot of people that are on the phone. So if you speak, please say your name before you speak.
I could piggyback on that for a minute, Greg. This is Joe Webster, principal at Meadowdale Middle. I feel like last spring our teachers learned a lot. I've worked in education for almost 3 decades, and I've never seen a staff learn so much in such a short period of time. And I think that they they understand there's a lot of unknowns, but they're also looking forward to opening school this year, feeling much more prepared, not only for the type of instruction that's appropriate in this environment, but how to support students who may have some difficulty in this environment. And I think the structure of the daily schedule will also enable our staff to spend more time with those students. And all I would say to parents is that if it's not working for you, we need to know as quickly as we can so that we can find a way to make it work for you and for your student, because we know we still have more to learn.
Thank you. So this is a question I know, and I'm sure again it's on a few folks' minds, to do with why we have 3 of our schools on the 6-period schedule and then 1 of our schools on the block. And I think there's an understanding among this group that we know probably the block schedule might be a more preferred way to approach remote learning. I think one of the challenges is that it requires some work with our teachers to help make those decisions. And I know that our principals are having those conversations with teachers. But 3 of our middle schools prior to the closure operated on a 6-period day, and 1 of our schools operated on the 3-period block. So I think we know that this may be something some conversations we need to engage our teachers in, and I think we'll continue to work on that, because we know that probably in this remote learning environment it might be a little bit of a better approach to take a 3-period block schedule versus 6 25-minute periods. So I think our principals are working on that, and we'll keep you all apprised of how that's progressing in terms of making a shift in schedules. Question about, will live teaching portions be recorded and archived for later use by students? And I don't know, feel free to chime in on this, folks, but I don't know that we've landed on a decision on that yet. I know we're talking about that with our teachers to figure out how to make that work, but we haven't decided on that. I think we'd like to be able to do that as a way to help support students, but we haven't decided that yet. Let's see. Trying to find some questions here. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through. I think we've answered a lot of these questions already, so I'm just trying to find ones that we haven't answered. Do you advise that students have an adult present during their online class? If an adult isn't available, is it best to miss class or attend without an adult?
I would say, I'm sorry, this is Joe Webster again from Meadowdale Middle. Students should attend their Zoom classes every opportunity that they can, with or without an adult. If an adult can be there, that's great. But the instruction is going to be aimed at the students, so we wouldn't want you to not attend because a parent can't be there. We know there's a lot of our students are going to be home without an adult during those classes, and we want them and expect them to attend.
Question about when will students get their class schedules?
Hi, this is Andrea Collins, principal at College Place Middle School. We are working to launch our schedules on the 7th. September 7th is about 2 days prior to the start of school year, simply because we're still working behind the scenes in terms of balancing our schedules and making sure when we move and launch into the hybrid, if and when that does happen, that all that scheduling is taking place right now. And our support staff with our registrar and our grade level counselors are still available via email if you might have a question. However, things will change up until even after, and I know this is not as a common knowledge, but even after about the 4th or 5th day of school, sometimes some movement does happen as well to make sure our schedules are balanced for everybody involved. So just knowing that that tentative date is on September 7th to review a schedule in Skyward. And if you haven't yet, a little plug for Skyward. Skyward is great to make sure you have all your credentials and emails and updated phone numbers and names or preferred names of your child and student as well, so that we can know how to properly address your student when they come to our class roster and list. So make sure if you haven't double checked Skyward, that you can do that. And there's also an app for Skyward as well. So transitioning from the elementary to the middle level, almost all of our communication is through Skyward. So if you haven't had a chance to update that yet, please go through and look at your student's profile, make sure your contact of family 1 and family 2 is accurate, so that you as in your home as family members can review your student's information.
So we'll be releasing our schedules through Skyward as well. We're looking at the end of the first week of September. To get those out, because again, as Andrea Collins said, oh, by the way, this is Brian Stewart from Alderwood. Sorry for those of you on the phone. But we'll get it out over Skyward by the end of the first week. We're still working on a lot of that, the AB scheduling that should we go to a hybrid model. We're just trying to get that done now, and so some things to tie up there. But definitely check out how to log on to Skyward. And if you have any questions about Skyward, we've been giving out a lot of passwords and logins for parents that need that assistance. And so always give us a call if you have any questions regarding how to log into Skyward.
Joe Webster, Meadowdale Middle, will be handing out student schedules and a drive-by schedule and ice cream event on September 2nd. That day also, if you're a 7th grader and you weren't able to attend our Chromebook swap last week, we will hopefully complete swapping out Chromebooks at that event, and possibly even be handing out some art supplies and school supplies and things like that for students who are taking those elective courses and may need some of those materials at home. That's September 2nd from 2 to 6 o'clock. 2 to 6 o'clock, anytime. Come by between 2 and 6.
So there were several questions about Chromebooks, and we're fortunate that we have some folks from technology that are on this webinar as well. And one of our technology staff shared some information with me that I wanted to share with you. And it may generally answer some of the Chromebook questions, so some you may have a more specific one. But each school is doing their Chromebook distribution on a unique schedule based on a variety of factors. So please check that school's website or reach out to your school for specific information. Additional information on Chromebooks and other technology-focused items will be discussed at a technology-specific community forum that's going to be held on September 1st. So if you don't have that date on your calendar and you're able to attend, again, I believe it's at 6 o'clock on September 1st. And that will be a place for you to learn more about all things technology. So the Other question kind of related to that was, if we didn't need to do Chromebook swap, how will we acquire the additionally provided materials? And I think, Joe, you touched on that a little bit with some of so other schools, do you have other plans for students to come and pick up materials that they might need for the start of school?
At Briar Terrace, we're, again, it's really hard for us to make definite plans because we don't really have access to our teachers completely. So we want to check in with our teachers to see what it is that they need their students to get. And we're going to plan for something probably in mid-September after school starts, after we know what kids need and the things that teachers need for them to pick up. When we get that, then we're going to set up a time for materials pickup / drop off.
This is Andrea Collins at College Place Middle School again. Similar process and protocol is happening at Briar Terrace Middle. We'll be doing that about the 20th week of September, so about 3 weeks into instruction in terms of knowing who our students are and what our needs are for individuals. And tomorrow, just a little plug, if you are a family or student from College Place tomorrow, we do have our 7th grade Chromebook swap. So just a reminder about that too. Please check your email for times by last name and your alpha.
And this is a plug for the district tech helpline for students and families. It's 425-431-1211. And so that's also a way that you can exchange your Chromebook is through that hotline and arrange something with them as well. But our next Chromebook exchange will be for our 8th graders, but 7th graders can also utilize that time to exchange their Chromebook if you're not able to work out something with 1211. But then also, if your child doesn't have a Chromebook at all, then we need to figure that out sooner than later. So, give us a call and we can figure that out.
I think we may have touched on this a little bit, but can any of you speak specifically to how you're going to handle electives and like orchestra and band in particular, how those are going to work in your schedules?
Yeah, orchestra and band is, so this is Brian Stewart again from Alderwood. Band and orchestra is still taking place. They're going to be utilizing I believe it's an app or it's a software that will allow students to be able to play. And as they play, they have to be playing the right tempo and pitch and so on. And so it'll give them an assessment of how they're doing, but then also, of course, checking in with their teachers as well for guidance, whether that's during the class period or, in the afternoon. But still a plan. It's going to be a challenge, obviously, to bring everybody together. But basically, you can still work on those individual skills, and you'll hear more from your band and orchestra teachers. But that's still the plan. And then for electives, I think a lot of that's going to be a lot of material pickup, and so on a consistent basis to make sure that we're checking out what you need. Like right now, we're gathering all the art supplies that you're going to need for our art classes, and then being able to make those available to you. So, we're working hard on making sure that we can still continue, with those courses.
This is a really important question. Can you talk about the steps you are taking to ensure that the curriculum is solid and that students are getting high quality instruction online? So maybe talk a little bit about some of the work that you all have done with your teachers last spring and will continue to try to do this fall.
Yeah, I think last spring presented to our teachers a unique challenge to further align themselves, which is something we've been trying to do here at Meadowdale Middle School anyway. But this really kind of pushed us into hyperspeed to do that using our department professional learning communities and a lot of collaboration to make sure that what we were sending home and asking kids to do was linked to standards, that we were getting any clutter out of the curriculum, things that were unnecessary, which we may have been able to do during regular school, but with a time crunch and a resource crunch at home, or a shortage. It was just very difficult to ask students and families to do some of the things that we would normally do. I think this is still going to be a work in progress this fall. As a principal, I'm going to sit in on Zoom classes every single day. I'm going to meet with my teachers. I'm going to meet with the departments and make sure that the experience that our students are having is as high a quality as we could possibly deliver.
And this is Scott Morrison from Briar Terrace. I just want to, ditto what Joe said. I have been really impressed with what our teachers have done in the spring as far as their collaboration and their fine tuning of just finding the essential standards to address, to be sure that standards are being met. And then the activities that they're creating are, specifically with the idea that we really need to make our activities engaging, as well as having the rigor that meets standard for our students. The work has been really impressive, and I can't say enough about the great work that our teachers have been doing.
So here's a question a parent is asking about what would you say is the expectation for home support for students? How would you advise parents about how much time each day, how involved are they expected to be in daily learning?
Well, I'll speak again. I've communicated to my staff that my goal, honestly, is that I don't want parents to feel like they're homeschooling their children during this period of time. It's our job to provide your students with an education, and hopefully we do a good job of doing that. At all times, parent support at home, whether it's regular in-person school or this school, of course, we appreciate parent support, but if students need support that their parents can't provide at home, then we hope to be providing it during office hour time or through whatever means we can possibly do that. So I know some parents are able to provide a lot of support and some are not. And so we're ready to hopefully step up and meet that challenge.
So this is again another really important question. I think the anxiety of being on video for my student and this parent student, and then I'm sure that other students as well, is very daunting, at least until they develop relationships with new classmates and teachers. Do you have a district-wide policy that says kids will have to be on screen, or will that decision be left up to individual teachers? I'll answer first and say we don't have a district policy about that. So again, it certainly is an important question, but I wonder if any of you could kind of speak to how you might have handled that in the spring, or how you might handle it in the fall.
Well, we really didn't have to handle it in the spring, unfortunately. But I think, it's a fine line and it's a balancing act, because what we're going to be really focusing on, especially at the beginning of the year, is building those positive relationships. And being on screen is probably going to be part of that. At the same time, if we're building positive relationships, we need to be sensitive to students who are going to be uncomfortable with that. And so we'll be working with teachers to work with your students to help them to feel comfortable, but also to start to engage, to build that confidence with the class, that they feel safe enough that they feel safe turning on their screen. And if they're not feeling safe doing that, then we're not going to force them to do that, but we're going to be doing some intentional things to build positive relationships so that hopefully they won't feel like they're not safe to do that.
This is Andrea Collins, principal at College Place Middle School. I think that the intentional planning of hopefully having that advisory scheduled within the standard school day is to build those sense of self-efficacy and trying to build in confidence skills that I know this is a really unique time period in your child's life, and knowing that there's a lot of opportunity for growth and development and building in resiliency skills. So if you're not familiar with how that all fits into a 15-minute window of time, it's going through what we have at College Place called Character Strong. So each month we have a theme, and the first theme is a commitment. So it's that commitment to yourself of, hey, maybe I can try to really, I'm getting a good connection with maybe my third period teacher, for example, and that's where I can first start to say, okay, I'm going to try X amount of minutes. So it's building in goal setting, and then giving your student that sense to say, we're able to support your child's needs in all different capacities. So knowing that the advisory period is a good time for that social emotional learning to happen and develop those skills with your student. So that's kind of a little plug for that too.
Parent question about, with a concern about the way the 7th grade year ended being cut short with new learning, and now this year is still not typical. Parent is worried about whether or not her student will be ready for standard level for the 9th grade. I mean, I'm going to kind of tackle this one first and just say that we absolutely know that we have some work to do to fill in some gaps that were left by the way we finished the school year last year. Last spring we did the best we could do, pivoting to remote instruction very quickly, but we know that we have some work to do, and I think that's still the work ahead of us. And I know that I can speak for our student learning department, who is really focused on ensuring that we have solid curriculum, we are focusing on the right standards, so that our students will be ready to move to the 9th grade and move to high school and be successful. So we know that we need to focus on that, and we have work to do in that area, but know that it is something that we are absolutely attending to. Let's see. Question about supply lists. Will supply lists be published for each school?
Yes, this is Andrea Collins at College Place. Our supply list, we gathered feedback from our instructional council, which is our each department chair of each discipline has provided some tools for resources in their remote environment and tools upon entering back and phasing into a hybrid model. So there's 2 classifications that should be posted, if not tomorrow, but hopefully on Monday, the 31st.
Yeah, our supply, this is Brian Stewart from Alderwood again. Our school supply list is posted, and we posted what we typically ask for school supplies, with the expectation and hope that we can return back to school at some point. Those items will be needed more in person, and so, but we also created a smaller list for what is essential right now. And we also highlighted that since organization is a huge key to success in middle school, that there's some type of organizational tool that they can have at home. Obviously, they're not going to be filing a lot of papers, but we will be going over, using the Chromebook, we'll be going over ways to organize electronically, but also just finding ways to make sure that your child is set up for, all right, here's my schedule each day, or what are some materials that they're going to need, whether it's file folders or a notebook pad or something that helps them make a list, ways to give them ideas and tips to be able to stay organized. And that's also something that we'll be working on a lot for the first month of the school year, is how to make sure you're staying on top of things and how to check off when you've turned in assignments and so on. So that'll be a key focus for us as well.
Prior Terrace does not have a supply list yet. Be on the lookout.
Menadel Middle, we sent our supply list home with our back to school letter last week, and it's posted on our website.
So a question about if and when we transition to the hybrid model, will we have the option of opting out and doing online only? And if we do online only, would the coursework and curriculum be the same as the hybrid model? So I can answer that by saying that, yes, we anticipate that when we open in a hybrid, that we will have families that'll choose to continue doing remote learning. And that will be As we've talked about having A and B cohorts, we also will have a C cohort, which will be our students and families who choose to engage in online learning. The second part of the question is a little bit trickier to answer, but it's something that we need to work on and know this. We need to get more information on how that curriculum will look. What will the transition be like for students who choose to stay in the remote learning, because it involves teachers who will be teaching the remote classes, and classes oftentimes may be in a little bit of a different place with regard to curriculum. So know that that's something we're aware of and we need to focus on, but I don't have an answer for you on the second part of that question tonight. Okay, so I think we have one more question, and I'm going to go back to, we talked a little bit about band and orchestra as electives, but how are other electives going to be addressed? How will students only be able to participate during the hybrid model, or are you planning to offer other electives besides band and orchestra in the remote setting?
Yes, sorry, this is Scott Morrison from Briar Terrace. We are offering all of our electives and that we normally would. And some of those are going to be really challenging. We have some really hands-on electives that are not going to be, they're not going to look like they did. And but we're going to do our best to make them engaging and for students, and we're going to do our best to be sure that kids are learning. But it's not going to look the same as it did, obviously.
At Meadowdale, we are offering all of our electives. But I think the challenge is, one of the things kids enjoy about our elective program is most of those classes are hands-on, they're active classes, and that's very difficult to replicate in a remote environment. But I know that our teachers are working hard to do that. So Spanish, STEM, art, band, orchestra, all of those classes will still be offered. And I know our teachers, like I say, they've been talking to teachers around the country, around the district, around the state, trying to find the most effective ways to deliver a meaningful and rich curriculum around those classes, even though they know they're going to have to do it differently.
All right. Anybody else want to add before we wrap up?
I think also too, while it's not an elective, there will still be health and PE, right? And so it'll look different. There will be team sports and so on, but do expect guidelines for physical fitness, but also I think the health side of health and PE is going to definitely emerge as we're working on social emotional learning, and also mental health and how to help our students through a very hectic time.
And likewise at College Place, this is Andrea Collins again. Yes, similar to my colleagues across the district, we are offering and hosting our elective classes, as well as reiterating what Mr. Stewart said at Alderwood regarding the health and fitness components for some physical fitness each day. At least that's the hope. And then also of the emotional side of what we're going through all together.
All right. Well, I think that's the last of our questions. And if we could share the screen again, Sharon, if I could pull it back up, the last couple of slides on the PowerPoint.
Sure, just a moment, okay?
Thank you. Just a couple of things while we're wrapping up these last few slides. I want to let you all know that we had over 200 participants tonight in the forum, and we had about 115 questions. And so again, I want to thank you all for attending tonight. I know we didn't get to all the questions, and so we are going to capture these questions, and they will be part of our frequently asked questions document on the district website. We also want to let you know about some upcoming community forums that we have. Tomorrow night, we're going to focus on high school. We also have a community forum coming up on Monday about childcare. I mentioned the technology community forum on Tuesday, and then we have forums about kindergarten, elementary school, and student health also coming up in the next couple of weeks. So all those forms are again listed on our district website. And if you have students that that would be taking part in any of those, we would encourage you to attend those forums as well. And with that, again, I just want to thank you all for attending, and just really hope that you all have a positive start to the school year, and encourage you to please reach out to your school if you need any support during remote learning. We're here to help, and we want to make sure that you and your students have a successful school year. So thank you very much for attending, and have a great evening.